Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our virtual opening reception for the new exhibitions that open today through, sorry, I'm trying to admit people and talk at the same time, through October 24th. I'm Shelley Rugg, the gallery coordinator at Gallery Route 1.
Progress.
For our presentation today, we ask that you please stay muted unless we ask you to unmute. For best viewing, select speaker view from the top right corner of the Zoom viewing screen. And we want you to know that we are recording today's presentation for future viewing on our website and YouTube channel. And now I'd like to introduce, whoops, I'm sorry, one moment, please. And now I'd like to introduce our board president, Tony Littlejohn. Please welcome Tony Littlejohn.
Thank you, Shelley. I'm very pleased to be here, introduce you to these beautiful shows here at Gallery Route 1, and to tell you a little bit about Gallery Route 1. We are an artist-run organization, and we are supported mostly by you, our audience, by our donors, by people in our community. And we do, in addition to showing the artwork of our members, we do a great deal of outreach, including our environmental program, which is what Pamela Blotner will be talking about later today, the exhibition by the weed artists. And we also do social justice, immigration, and we have our outreach programs, which are the Artists in the Schools program, as well as the Latino Photography Project. So we really encourage you to be to become a donor of the gallery or to renew your donorship. We are also featuring right now a matching drive for our fellowship program, which sponsors 2 young artists between the ages of 21 and 40. And you will see that soon on the website. So thank you very much for being here. And I'd like to now pass this over to Betsy Kellis, who's just in the gallery.
All right, before we see Betsy, I would like to introduce her. Betsy is an artist member of Gallery Route 1. She also serves as the artist member coordinator. She is a painter, printmaker, sculptor, and art educator with a studio practice that spans decades. Her work is primarily non-representational and occasionally explores the visual and psychological impact of abstract narratives. Her work is exhibited internationally and is held in private, corporate, and public collections. Betsy is also co-founder of Just Enough Collective, a collaborative ceramics and sculpture workshop she created in 2018 with the artist Penelope Anstruther. One of the benefits of being a GRO artist member is the opportunity to create a solo show in the main gallery. Betsy took that opportunity to present Sun Night Editions, a fine art print publishing house owned and operated by Yoni Asiga and Drew Grasso. Sun Night Editions is committed to strengthening and sustaining diversity essential for artists and their communities to survive and thrive by using printmaking to foster creative practices and provide avenues to reach new audiences and collectors. I'm happy to introduce Betsy, who will tell us a little more about Sun Night Editions.
Hey, Shelley, thank you so much for that introduction. Tim, can we, oh, perfect. You're focused on the photograph. Let's go ahead and switch to that camera and highlight that. Yeah, there we go. And Tim, if you'll just kind of stay on the photograph while I talk a little bit about Sun Night Editions, that would be terrific. So Drew Grasso, who you see on the right, and Yoni Asiga, who you see on the left. No, wait, I got it backwards. Drew, who you see on the left, and Yoni, who you see on the right, met in 2011 when they were studying printmaking together at the San Francisco Art Institute. They recognized in one another a shared interest in using printmaking to produce and promote the work of the richly diverse community of artists around them, and also to provide access to ownership of that work through the medium of screen printing. The decision to establish their own fine arts publishing house, Sunlight Editions, came in 2019, when after working separately out of their own home studios, they found a sort of semi-industrial space suitable for the expansion and collaboration that they had in mind. And since then, Sunlight Editions has been actively printing and publishing the work of individual artists, arts institutions, and nonprofit organizations. And in the few short years that Yoni and Drew have worked together, they have produced collaboratively with over 50 artists, editions of prints, and published more than 30, they've published more than 30 editions of fine arts prints, posters, and artist books. Earlier this year, I had the great pleasure of working with Drew and Yoni on an edition of, or 3 editions of prints, and collaborating with them from everything from composition to color to producing the artist proofs. I have to say, it was truly one of the highlights of my career as a printmaker and an artist to work with these master printers and to experience firsthand their commitment to this kind of collaboration, their respect for the artists, and their intention to make this work accessible to just a wide range of collectors. And by accessible, I think in many ways, I want to be clear, I also mean affordable, so that nobody is left out of the opportunity to have in their homes and to live with the work of these artists. So I just want to say it is my honor and privilege to introduce Drew Grasso, who will take us through the exhibition and talk about a few pieces in the show. So Drew, thank you.
Thank you both so much, Betsy and Shelley. I appreciate all the kind words. I feel like you've introduced us better than I can. So I guess I'll skip, describing us or anything.
Shall we start with the show? Do you want to?
Let's start with the show.
Okay, great. And Tim, if you'll just stay with this image for a little bit, I think this is one of the ones, Drew, you said you wanted to talk a little bit about.
Yeah, so this is by an artist who we've worked with a few times, Adriana Adams, who was also at SFAI with Yoni and I. And working with her has been incredibly rewarding, specifically because we got to expand our understanding of how to promote work. She's not particularly a self-promoter. So to take somebody who we knew was incredibly talented and then kind of flex our muscles as far as getting the work out there was incredibly rewarding. This print was made as part of a residency that she had with IPCNY, which is the International Print Center, New York. And she applied for a residency, and I guess it was a residency with the first print that we did, and they awarded her this some funding to make a second edition of prints. So in addition to this, she did a few relief blocks with us too, which are not in the show, but it's been really great to see what kind of we could do for somebody else's career and help shoulder the burden, I guess, of promoting and emailing and all that kind of boring stuff that artists don't want to do. And I never want to do for myself. But to do it for somebody else and find it rewarding and enjoyable was actually, it was great for all of us.
And Drew, this is a 16 color print, right?
It is.
16 different screens on this.
Mhm.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Then,
Should we move on?
yeah.
Yeah. So I think just around the corner, Tim, is, oh, you want to talk about Nellie's? Well, let's see where you're going to go.
Sure,
here.
yeah, let's talk about the books. I like the books.
Yeah.
So these are a series of artist books that I made with my partner, Penelope. And they are mono printed using some different screen techniques. So there's maybe 10 or 15 different sort of pieces of imagery that we took and burnt onto screens and then made these one-of-a-kind books. You can see the end sheets on the book that's on the bottom are, thank you. Yeah, those are maybe my favorite part. They came out very well. And then she is a master bookmaker, so we sort of stepped off and let her bind and cover those. They look very nice. So it's an edition of 3 monoprinted books.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the covers are really stunning. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you, Tim. That's really nice to see.
Yeah, those are great. And then
I think the image, Tim, to your, if you move back to your left, that one right at the corner there was next one. Yeah, I think that was when Drew said you thought you might want to talk about.
yeah, definitely. So this is actually a print that we're releasing on the 22nd, and it's with a Vietnamese artist named Mai Ta, who I first saw her work at an art fair, I think in 2018 or 19. And she almost sold out to the art handlers, like all the people who were installing the show. She had just graduated maybe a month before from SVA in New York. And I got to hang them, but everybody from all the different galleries was gathered around, like oohing and awing. And she sold, I think, all of them before the fair even opened. So that kind of stuck in my mind, and I had reached out to her when that happened just to share with her how cool that was. And we kind of had been kicking some ideas around, and finally Yoni and I kind of came up with this one. And this, Betsy, you've got the sheet in front of you, so you can correct me, but I believe it's a 25 color.
Oh gosh, let me
Yeah,
double check.
25 color screen print. Thank you.
Yes.
So we're putting that out. She has a solo show that's going up this month in New York as well, called at a gallery called Pablo's Birthday. And she just is young and incredible, and very good things are coming to her. So we were very proud of this one.
Thanks. So Tim, if you just want to go ahead and pan us around and perfect. Yeah. And then if we can rest here for a minute.
So this is I believe it's a 14 color screen print for a photographer in the East Bay named Sakyu Mubarak. And he also is young. He's like 25 maybe, and is just an incredible photographer. And this is it's a collage made out of darkroom photography that he gave to us, and we reproduced. And it just looks really, really nice with all that, all the built up layers to make these very subtly rounded hands and stuff. We're very proud of this one. And he works with a collective in Oakland called Smart Bomb, oftentimes doing visuals, and he has some photographs of the Black Lives Matter protests after the murder of George Floyd that were turned into murals around town. So he's featured very prominently in downtown Oakland. Or his work is featured very prominently.
So shall we just Go ahead, Tim, if you will, and just kind of pan us through to slowly to the next wall. Nice.
There's Chris Birch.
Yeah.
And then this one, actually, if we stop right here, I'll, I know this one's impossible to photograph, but this is one by my partner who couldn't be here today, Yoni Asega. So this is just a one color screen print, but it's incredibly effective, and you can tell how he understands the medium.
Yeah,
So.
it's so tough to see with the reflection, but you got to come to the show and see it. You have to come see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
In person, you don't get quite as much reflection as the camera picks up.
Yeah. Nice, nice.
Soleil summer.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to, yeah, go ahead on and we'll continue on the next wall. Such a range of work too. I mean, just each art is so different, and how you guys manage to accommodate all of us and bring out the best of this imagery in this wonderful medium. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then I think here is when you wanted to talk about, Drew, is that right?
Yes, so this is by another Oakland-based artist, Yetunde Olagbaju, who recently graduated with her MFA from Mills College here in Oakland. And this one we like a lot because they didn't just stick with screen printing. They gave us these 3 spaces that are punched out of the black for them to make an edition verrier using Van Dyke print. So they used our screen printing equipment and darkroom to print actual photos. So out of the edition of 25, each one is different and has different photo negatives stitched into those black spaces. So it was an example of, you can see their first print just right off to the right that they did with us. It was an example of them working with us once, taking some time to really understand the medium, and then coming back stronger the second time with just a deeper understanding of the process and what was available to them. And it pushed us. It's something that we never would have offered. It was something that we, I don't know, we were excited to figure out what else our equipment could do, which was kind of the point of the whole project, was to make a space and then kind of turn people loose in it. Yeah, so we're very proud of both of those. There's Tim Lahan. There's Adriana Adams' first print with us, I think from 2019. It's one of my best friends, Zane Prater. That's Robert Falco, who Yoni and I met in 2011 at SFAI. He was there, same class. And then I think I'll turn it over to Betsy. So these 3, we were very happy to have her. She was very generous in setting this up for us, and we were very excited with what we got to make in the studio too. I think these came out very well, and we didn't have to touch a computer either, which we were very happy with.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience working with you and Yoni. And I couldn't be happier. I couldn't be happier to see your work at Gallery Route 1 and to be sharing it with the community. Yeah. Yeah, these were all hand painted on acetate and then Drew and I spend a lot of time layering acetates and coming up with compositions and then deciding on color and layering and so forth. It was a true collaboration, and it was just an honor to work with both Drew and Yoni and these master printers.
Yeah, we were very excited at how much depth we were able to pull. It's a real trick to expose the screens off of hand painted acetate and really capture all the tiny little details and nuances in the paint. It sits on the acetate really, really funny. So I don't know, it's exciting when we can get that much out of it, especially on this one, I think.
And then the last one, Tim, if you want to go ahead on down to the very last print in the show there to the right, all the way. There you go.
Junebug.
Yeah, this is a wonderful small print by I forgot, I just lost his name. Macintosh. Linworth, I forgot his name, but he's the same fellow who did the wonderful photograph of Drew and Yoni that you saw on that original sign. But this is a beautiful print and a beautiful way to wrap up the show.
I love this one. He is one of our studio mates. So he actually found us our warehouse space. And then just sort of walking around our neighborhood in West Oakland, he called me and was like, hey, you have to get over here right now. And we sort of met the landlord because Junebug accidentally set us up. And then he moved in upstairs into our loft space. He was there for the first 2 years. So he was sort of a constant collaborator. Nice. He just moved to LA last week. So we miss him very much, but this was a 2-color we got to do called Lady in the Leaves. And he also, you can see his work. Well, they probably took it down, but he was the muralist who covered up the Fox in Oakland downtown. So he also is very, very visible all over Oakland.
Right.
Miss him.
Wow. Thanks, Drew. Thank you so much. And Shelley, thank you.
All right, thank you, Betsy and Drew. That was awesome. And we'd like to open up the floor if anyone has any questions for Drew or Betsy. We can take a few questions now. Will.
Hi, I just would like to say I had a chance to review this show, or preview it, I should say, when I was hanging my show, and it's fantastic. It's a wonderful show, and the video doesn't really do it justice because of the reflection, and especially Yoni's piece. I think you really couldn't see it, and it's a very powerful piece. So I just want to encourage people to come to the gallery, check it out.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions out there? Okay, looks like maybe not. So why don't we move on to our next artist? I'd like to introduce Will Thoms. Will has been a member of Gallery Route 1 since 2008. He is primarily an abstract painter using commercial and fine arts materials as well as collage to build up the surfaces of his work. He has been making art on and off for the past 50 years, having his first solo show at Southern Exposure Gallery in San Francisco in 1977. Please welcome Will Thoms.
Thank you, Shelley, for that. I did have a solo show back 45 years ago at Southern Exposure Gallery. And at that time I showed fairly large constructions that were made of salvaged material. And this show, in a way, it comes full circle, even though these are constructions made from largely salvaged and discarded materials, although they're much tinier. And the reason being that I'm showing them in you can't really tell from the video, but I'm showing them in a room that's 65 square feet. So I'd like to say a couple things about the pieces. I think these pieces, more than anything I've done, are really, I like to call them material driven, because I draw a lot of inspiration from materials at hand. I have in my studio, I keep cardboard boxes full of stuff, and that includes that piece. Now that you're focused on it, Tim, I'll talk about it a little bit. This was the first one I did early in the year. It's basically packing material, cardboard packing material. That in this case, it was so elegant to start with that I had to do very little. And I just put a little crescent at the top, sprayed it all with shellac, and used a very glossy latex paint on it, and voila, it's done. That one came pretty easily. But what I was saying was I keep stuff in my studio for use, and I have paper, like blueprint paper that I've stained and painted that I use in my paintings and in these constructions, odds and ends, all kinds of stuff. In fact, my grandson, if you could switch the camera to me for a second.
Okay, just a second.
My grandson picked up this beautiful thing out in the yard. It looks like a jawbone of a deer. And this will go in one of the cardboard boxes in my studio and probably will turn up in a painting or a construction at some point. So maybe go back to the gallery view. And if you just pan around, I could talk about it. I could talk about the one that's right there. Let's see, with that one there. That is cardboard packing material, which I think is just so elegant in itself. It's beautifully designed. And then I work on it. So this is done with latex paint, acrylic paint, some various materials that I have around, collage materials, and in this case, a threaded rod and some wing nuts. We can get a look at it. The one just to the left of it was a piece that I had sitting around in the studio that I worked on at one time. It was going to be part of a painting, didn't work out, but it looks a little bit like a mask. A friend of mine came into the studio and helped me think of titles for these things. He said it looks like a relic from a battle. So I named it accordingly. Let's see, what was it called? Scarred Remnant. It's made with a whole lot of materials that I just collect. Maybe the best thing to do would be just sort of scan around and take a look at everything. And one more piece, if you could go to, let's see, number 12. It's on the other wall in the corner. I think you've already shown it. Yeah, there it is, right there. Okay. So basically what that is a stick that I found, a beautiful thing. I found it on the beach in Massachusetts a few weeks ago. Brought it home, and it's basically been enshrined in this box. It reminds me a little bit of my my arthritic fingers when I look at it. So I think that's all I have to say about that. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and I hope you'll come and see the show, and as well as the other two shows that are here at the gallery.
All right, thank you, Will. And we'd like to open the floor again. If you have any questions for Will, just raise your hand or go ahead and start talking. Okay. All right, it looks like There is no questions, so we will move along. And next, I'd like to introduce Pamela Blotner. She's an artist, educator, and curator who lives and works in the Bay Area. In her Berkeley studio, she creates sculptures and drawings that explore humankind's relationship with nature, science, calamity, and healing. She has worked as a sculptor, illustrator for the Houston Zoo in Houston, Texas, and as an illustrator for Human Rights Watch, Physicians for Human Rights, and the UC Berkeley Human Rights Center, Art for Conservation, and the Leatherback Trust. She is a member of WEED, Women Eco Artists Dialogue, and she and our board president, Tony Littlejohn, were the co-curators of the show. So please join me in welcoming Pamela Blotner.
Thank you, Shelley. And welcome all of you. Here is our exhibition, Art on the Edge. Gallery Route 1 and WEED, Women Eco Artist Dialogue, are very pleased to present this show. Its full title being Art on the Edge, Extraction, Restoration, and Regeneration, Part 2. Part 1. Part 2 will be featured next month at the Museum of the Peninsula. This show features 17 artists whose works address the overuse and abuse of the planet's resources, as well as our efforts to mitigate those processes. It is one of 46 allied exhibitions being shown nationwide. Before we go on into the show, I would like to say that there will be more to come. If you would like some more information about the work or to meet the artist, then please come to one of the virtual artist talks that we will be having on September 27th and September 30th. And to find out about these, please go to the WEED website, which is weedartists.org, and it will tell you how to register. Okay, but now before we take a tour and look at the work, I'd just like to have us keep in mind 3 questions that this show asks. First, how can we stop this destruction of our planet? Secondly, how can we prevent it from happening in the future? And third, what happens if we don't? Now, come with me. This photograph is by and of me Preckler, and it's called Conversation with the Gravel Pit. And this is a 20-year project at a place called iPark, an artist residency, and that's iPark for those who might be interested in going. That is completely based on land projects. And she is here working on restoration of a gravel pit as it was taken away years ago. Let's move on to Jane Scafferty's work, Virginian Jane Scafferty. Unfortunately, her piece is held up in a place I have not heard of, Amboy, California. So we just had an invitation, but I can tell you a little bit about the work. Jane is very much involved with ecological concerns. She loves nature. That's the beginning of all of her work. This piece, many others like it, she has borrowed diagrams from old geography textbooks in order to give her the form and how to collapse the images within. Next to Jane's piece, there's another piece about resources, and this is made by Renee Owens, who does a number of things, one of which is fiber work and her book work. And this is about the pollution of waterways, pollution of rivers, and how much damage it does. This is dyed fabric, but also these are river pebbles that she has taken out of a stream and which themselves are degrading. By the way, the dye is natural indigo.
Pamela,
Yes.
I need you to make sure that you're standing close to the part of Tim's iPad that has the microphone because we're losing you a little bit.
Which part is that?
I believe it's,
Oh,
if
okay, so
you're
I have
on
to be on, I have to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. Okay, this piece is called Sea Level Rise in CO2 Graph. And of course, it explains quite a bit. Bonnie Peterson is the artist, and it is about the dangers and the evils of sea level rising. And in this case, it also embraces the kind of pollution, which is a part of that. In this case, oil. One of the things that I like so much about this show, first of all, is how passionate all the artists are. But then secondly, how erudite they are, all the different materials they use and how they use them. And this, of course, is embroidered silk. Next, we have Nancy Peluso, who was actually a scientist, and she's on the faculty of the University of California in Berkeley in the Environmental Sciences Department. And she spent, I believe, about 10 years in Indonesia working and focused on the extraction of gold there. And so these are actually on-site photographs of the gold miners taking the gold. This piece that we're now focusing on, which is called The Look, describes a certain part of the process where the water flushes the nuggets of the metal out. The other one was called Morning Coffee, and in each, she likes to put a human being for scale, for reference. Now, in the center of these two pieces, Christina Bertia's Calling All Carbon Home to the Soil is one of the other few pieces in the show which actually talks about solutions for making the world a better place. It's welded steel and ceramic, and it is about taking all of the CO2 that is set loose in the air and putting it back into the soil. Now we'll move on to Vicky Jo Souls' sculpture, which is called Low Clearance, and it describes an underpass, and it's pretty easy to figure out what all of the gases and emissions from automobiles do to trees and do to our whole atmosphere. And this, Vicky Jo is captured in steel and in paint. Margaret Lejeune gives us Watershed Triptych from the series of Growing Light. And in it, she looks at the science of growth and certainly of special lights in growth and what goes on in that process. I've been wondering if when the gallery lights are turned off, this piece still glows. Linda Mcdonald has been very much affected by nature and by what's happening to it. And she's a California artist and was a member of the gallery until recently. She uses the California redwood very often in her paintings, both as a symbol of the state, but a symbol of a record of time, what it can record, how long it lasts until we cut them down. Bambi Waterman works with animals. She was talking about the extraction of animals from the world. And in this case, it is the elephant. As we all know, their tusks, their ivory is very prized. And the removal of that ivory has well reduced the population and is sold to finance weapons buying from terrorist groups. From animals, we go back to water. And this is a piece by Jane Ingram Allen, who likes to look at the waterways in different places. She's worked all the way around the world, but this piece she made specifically for Point Reyes National Seashore, and it depicts the various waterways that we have and what is happening with them. This little piece is by Carolyn Landau, and it is called Archiving Ice. And what she has done is she actually had a residency, a number of residencies in Norway, and I think in Denmark. And she had the Arctic Circle Artist Residency. And she took chips of ice, made molds of them, and reconstructed those bits of ice. And it's quite beautiful. And when you move up closely, and if we have a tremor here in California, you'll see the water inside begin to shake. Above Carolyn's piece is another painting by Bambi Waterman, and in this case, an orangutan's eye. These are oil on panel, but I should say that orangutans are even more endangered than our elephants. So very, very hard to look at. Tammy West also looks at what has happened to the earth, to the extraction of water, and symbolic ways that we can mend it if we can. This is one of a series of photographs she has done looking at the earth. Moving on to Margaret Lejeune, this is Bird Song #2 from the series called Shifting Halo. And what it's about, she documents climate change through not only what happens to the earth, but what happens to the animals on it. In this case, the birds. And so you see here at the top, she has actually recorded the sounds of the animals. Birdshot is part of an evolving series that Lorna Stevens makes in drawing, printing, sometimes ceramics. And it began and still is about the loss of animals. In this case, carrier pigeons who were a vital part of our war effort for years and years and have been allowed to die out. Linda Mcdonald, this is another one of her giant redwood paintings. And she actually spends a lot of time in the groves in the state and national parks with an idea of finding the unusual and exciting. Her paintings capture a whole different world found within the tree. This is by these two pieces. These two pieces are by Judith Selby Lang, and they are, the one on the left is swag. Oh, I'm sorry, the left is black knot. The one on the right is swag. And this is debris that washes up in the ocean because of the big fishing industry. So she's talking not only about the decimation of sea creatures, but also about what happens with all of the refuse that is left in the earth for us to deal with. Andre Singer Thompson has been a member of WEED and of GRO for a while now. And she is she's probably the most dedicated eco artist that I know and has been making this kind of work for many, many years. These are two pieces. This top one is Hope, and it is images of vanishing animals. She's made them in pen and ink and then put them together, and we see them as a wall relief. Below is a piece called Hope for Healthy Survival. They are made out of clay. Andre does beautiful work in clay as well. And they are both about regeneration and restoration. As we know, fire has been both destructive, but a way certainly of many early civilizations to regenerate nature. And she has accentuated this on the lighter sticks, bones, they're bones and sticks, by delicate drawings of natural things. This is the curator's statement that my co-curator, Tony Littlejohn, and I wrote about the shows and about the work in them.
Okay.
Shall we invite questions, Pamela?
I think that'd be wonderful.
All right. Does anybody have any questions?
Join me.
Okay.
All right. Well, I think we're having a lovely Saturday looking at art. And thanks everyone for coming. You have something to say, Renee. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that many of the folks that are here today are all artists. And so you know the amount of work that goes into these shows. And I was at the gallery on Wednesday, and all three galleries were installing at the same time. It was an incredible amount of excitement and energy and hammering and banging and moving things around. And I think that the artists did an incredible job. Will Thoms' work in that small back room is absolutely stunning with this dark gray stripe on the wall. And as is Betsy's masterpiece exhibition in the main gallery. And the weed show was a lot of fun to work with installation as well. Jane Ingram Allen was on her hands and knees pinning up that massive handmade paper piece that she made of Point Reyes. Tim's panning on it right now. So I just think that it's priceless to be in the gallery and actually see all of this work live. So I hope that you all will come. And Pamela and Tony Littlejohn put an incredible amount of work into jurying the exhibit in the back room as well. So just thanks to all of you for making GRO fabulous.
Thank you, Renee. That's a lovely comment, and we appreciated both working with you, hanging the work and seeing the result.
I would like to just say that just on Zoom, the show looks very, very wonderfully integrated and different of materials. I think it looks beautiful, and I look forward to seeing it in person. And thank you, all of you, for the hard work.
Thank you, Andre.
Pamela, I have a question. Have you been able to tell people about the two artist presentations that are going to happen for the Art on the Edge exhibit?
Yes, I did at the beginning, and did drive them, hopefully direct them to the website where they can get even more information and hear from the artists themselves.
Do you want to repeat the website address?
I certainly can. And I have it right here. But first, a lot of noise of me finding it. Okay, the website is weedartist.org. That's WEAD artist.org. And it will, you will be able to register and get your ticket through Eventbrite. I should also add that the talk that we have on Monday, the 27th, 7 to 8 Pacific time, features artists Carolyn Landau, Linda Mcdonald, Nancy Peluso, Judith Selby Lang, Vicki Jo Soul, Lorna Stevens, Andre Thompson, Christina Bertia. Talking with us on Thursday the 30th at 5 to 6 p.m. Pacific time and 8 to 9 Eastern Standard Time, since a number of these artists are from the East Coast. We'll have artists Margaret Lejeune, Bonnie Peterson, Jane Scafferty, Allison Zaboda, and Allison Zaboda's piece did not make it the way we wanted to, so we're holding off showing that piece until we can do it justice. But I hope that she will also join us and talk about her process. We'll have Tammy West, Mee Preckler, and Jane Ingram Allen.
Thank
Could
you,
I
Pamela.
also
ahead.
throw in here for a minute?
Please.
Tomorrow, there is a weed artist, Carol Newberg, giving a fantastic talk. You could register on Weed. She runs the San Quentin Art Program.
I second that. She's also a wonderful artist in her own right.
Absolutely.
Any other
Great.
questions? That's it?
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks, everyone. Thank you to Tim on camera today. And thank you to Tony and Pamela for your work on the weed exhibition. Thank you to Betsy for bringing us Sun Night editions. And thank you to Will for sharing your sweet little artworks. And to all the artists of weed, welcome and thank you as well. If you were moved by today's presentation and want to support the work that Gallery Route 1 does to bring art to the community, then please visit our website and make a donation today. Make a note in the comments that your donation was because of our virtual reception. And thanks again for coming. And we hope to see you at our next virtual reception, October 30th. By the way, please do visit the shows in person. They're up through October 24th, and our gallery hours are Thursday through Monday, 11 to 5. Thanks again for coming, everyone. Bye-bye.